Hey there, it's Allie. I've been filming this video for a little while now, and I am finally so excited to tell you all my thoughts about some of the most popular books of 2023. I totally underestimated the amount of organizational foresight I would need to film this video. For some reason, I thought I was just going to be able to film willy-nilly and then piece it together later, but I filmed all of these clips of me reading and my thoughts about the books that I was reading. Then I got in front of my computer to edit, and I sat in front of a blank sequence for a really long time. I hadn't even put anything in a timeline, and I was getting so up in my head. I do that a lot. I have pretty complete ideas about how I want something to turn out, but no actual abilities to get from point A to point B that would make my vision a reality. So then I try and sit through learning how to get my vision from point A to point B, and it's just I've overestimated my abilities, and then I get frustrated when it doesn't look like what I want it to look like, or I don't know how to make it look like what I want it to look like. So yeah, this video has been about 2 months in the making. I started filming this video before I even posted my first YouTube video, so I'm trying to get rid of my perfectionist side, but I think it's a labor of love, but I think I'm doing a little bit better, at least as far as booktube is concerned. I'm trying to give myself some grace. To figure out which books I was going to read in this video, I went into Goodreads popular by date list and then filtered by 2023, and then I just picked 6 of the top 12 books in there. Some of the other ones I had either already read or genuinely had no interest in reading and just wasn't gonna pick them up. So these are the 6 books that I chose out of the top 12 on the Goodreads list for most popular books published in 2023. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which takes the Rebecca total on this list up to 3, Happy Place by Emily Henry, and Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Now, out of these 6 books, the only book that I had never heard of before was Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano, which actually shocked me. I thought I would have at least heard of all of the books in the most popular books published in 2023, but I hadn't. So we learn new things every day. All the other books on this list I had heard of before or know a little bit about. So without further ado, let's get to some reading. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I felt like it would be blasphemous to film this video and not include one of the books from the Empyrean series. I have already started this book, but I will be finishing it in this video, so stick around to see that. I'm currently reading this hunky boy. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, I'd say. I'm going through this so much slower than the first book because it's just so much politics. The amount of locations that are being talked about right now, and I just can't keep track. I'm struggling with figuring out what the hell they're talking about and how it pertains to their situation. I'm like, I don't care where it is. Is this situation good or is it bad? That's all I care about at this point. Just cut to the chase. Iron Flame is the second book in the Empyrean series, the first being Fourth Wing. The series is about trainee dragon riders who are attending a brutal war college to train to become soldiers that fight from the sky. Basically, it's a fantasy romance that's set to be a 5-book series. I just finished reading Iron Flame. It wasn't a bad book, but I do think that all the hype for Iron Flame is residue left over from Fourth Wing. and I do think that Iron Flame was overhyped. But I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It had so much potential, and I feel like it just dropped the ball. I was debating 3.5, and then everybody said that the last few chapters really stepped up, but that was almost what made me want to take it down to a 3 rather than a 3.5, because I did not trudge through the last 550 pages to be excited about the last few chapters. I do think I need some distance from this. I think if the 3rd book was out right now, there is a potential that I would DNF the whole series. I think because there will be more renewed hype around the 3rd book when it comes out, that'll be the reason that I pick it up, rather than just being purely interested in the story. Who I care about in this story are the dragons. I care about the dragons. It just felt like the 1st book got really successful, and so then they were like, oh, we're gonna do it again, but make it longer. There were so many creature name drops that just did not matter. I don't think it really mattered in the grand scheme of things what Stephen's dragon's name is, when we're never going to see Stephen nor his dragon again. And if we do, introduce them when they matter. They didn't matter in this book. I literally don't remember half of the names that were said in this book because they just didn't pertain to the context of the story at the time. Half the time I just felt lost in this story, genuinely lost, and not ooh, I'm lost in this story, but I could not find my bearings. And it got to a point where I would reread sections over and over, and I would just be like, you know what? I'm going to assume that it'll explain itself later, because I can't figure out what this sentence means, or what this paragraph means, or what all of these 800 location names put together. Where does that put me on the map? I have no idea. Anyway, goodbye. I'm going to go read a different book. Today I'm wearing a hat inside because it is freezing. It just snowed for the first time last night and it was beautiful. I always say if it's going to be cold, then it might as well snow because at least it's pretty. It was just nice to see the lights in the street lighting up the snow as the snowflakes fell down onto the ground. It was really lovely. That does mean that it's really, really cold and energy expenses are through the roof recently, as in the past few years. So we're keeping our energy bills down by just cuddling up with some blankets, which for reading is perfect, so I don't mind. But I'm going to grab a coffee and then I'm going to get into listening to the audiobook while I try and crochet. I think I'm going to try and crochet a Christmas stocking. We'll see how it goes. We're going to be listening to None of This Is True by Liz Jewell on Spotify. I'm currently about a third of the way through the book. I don't know if it's because I'm listening to the book rather than reading it physically, but it's just so slow. I thought that would make it feel like it was going faster to be listening to it rather than reading it, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just used to my inner monologue or my inner audiobook going, so it's harder for me to listen to. My thoughts so far, I feel like I know where this book is going right now, and I also know that because I'm not even halfway through the book, that's probably misleading. So I'm probably being led to believe I know where this book is going. At least I hope so. I would assume, because it's been such a popular book this year, I can't imagine it would be super predictable. So let's go make a nest and get warm and maybe get some coffee first so that we can snuggle down and start crocheting and listening to the rest of None of This Is True. None of This Is True revolves around two women named Alex and Josie. They meet by chance at a pub one night and discover that they're birthday twins. Same day, same year, same city, same hospital. Kind of spooky if you ask me. Alex is a podcaster and is getting tired of broadcasting the same old thing, so when Josie suggests that Alex do a podcast series about Josie's weird life, Alex is on board. But Alex doesn't know the full story, and the book kind of follows the podcast as Alex unravels the strange and mysterious life of Josie, and things get a little personal. I genuinely guessed the end of the story 30% of the way through. I was convinced throughout the rest of the book that it was a false lead, like when the author is like trying to egg you on towards a certain outcome, but they're just misleading you so that when the plot twist comes, you're like, oh my god. But no, no, I was so disappointed when I got to the end and I was like, come on, there's 5% left. Come on, we've got time to have a plot twist in here. Come on. I did not guess the ending of the story. Incorrect. No, but I did. I'm so confused as to why this book over other psychological thrillers got so much attention, because it just really gave me cookie cutter psychological thriller. Maybe it's because I haven't read a ton of psychological thrillers and I just tend to pick up similar ones. It was creepy at some points. It was eerie. When listening to the audiobook, the narrator for Josie, one of the main characters, did a really good job, I think. She had a very airy tone about her voice, and that really worked for the character, I think. The other main character's name is Alex, which is actually short for Alexis, if you didn't know. Allie, my name, is short for Alexis. So I thought that was kind of cool. They mentioned it very randomly, 20% of the way through the book, and then never mention it again, that Alex is short for Alexis, but I thought it was cool. Favorite part of the book, honestly. So it was creepy at some points, but I never ever got that gut-wrenching, oh my god, what? Feeling that I want from a psychological thriller, I never got the thrill in thriller from this book. I feel like I'm being so harsh. It was not a bad book, and the concept was really cool, but I wish it had ended differently. I wish the second half of the book was just completely different. The concept, it was so good. Execution of the writing, great. I have no complaints about that. But the actual events in the writing, no, I think it was overhyped. That's disappointing. Anyway. The next book that I will be reading is on my Kindle, Divine Arrivals by Rebecca Ross. I am so excited about this book. I've heard nothing but good things across the internet. It's a YA fantasy romance, and the two main characters write love letters to each other. I'm so excited. I don't know why, but that just seems really cozy to me. And everyone raves about this book, so I'm just excited to see what all the hype is about. This is a terribly unflattering angle. But I did not think that this book was going to get me emotional. I didn't think it. Not like this. I'm 20% of the way through this book, guys. I mean, if you've read it, you may know. But I just wanted a little lighthearted story about writing love letters. It's not what I'm getting. It's not what I'm getting. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. What a book. I remember this book being very lyrically written, and I really liked that. It often felt like poetry in a way that wasn't disruptive or stopped flow of the story, but enhanced the magical atmosphere. This book shocked me in a few ways. I was not expecting this book. Generally, I wasn't expecting what this book gave me. I was expecting this book to be like a cute, kind of fluffy, maybe cozy fantasy about magic typewriters and writing love letters back and forth, but this book, mainly takes place in war-ridden times. War-ridden times. I did not expect this book to be as dark as it was. 30% of the way through this book, I was sobbing. So if I had been expecting it more, it probably wouldn't have gotten me as hard as it did, but because I was totally going into this basically blind from what the book actually was and thought I was reading like a cozy romance, it just hit me where it hurt. And I couldn't help myself. I shed tears. I shed a few, or a lot. I gotta be honest and say that I think this book falters in a lot more ways than I expected. The pervasive narrative of the magic storyline in this seems kind of silly to me. Without spoiling anything, the war that is basically happening in this book is between two godlike beings who are just having a fight. And I know this is a duology, so I'm hoping that in the second book it's explained a lot better, but in this first book, the context that we are given for this war seems so petty to me. Like, it's basically just a butthurt god chasing after this other god. I really hope that they dive deeper into why this war is occurring, because it doesn't make sense to me. It just seems kind of convenient. Like, some of the magical things that happen within this book just happen because of convenience for the story, if that makes sense. There were a lot of times where I was just sat with my Kindle asking, why? Why did that just happen? Yes, I get that it could have happened because it's a magical place, but I almost feel like the reasoning behind why something happened was because magic. Because magic, that's why. I don't know. The actual base of the overarching story in this book lacked substance to me. There were a lot of points, especially in the last bit of the book, where I felt like things just sped up really fast. It went from 0 to 100 so quickly. I don't say this often, but I feel like this book could have been drawn out a little bit further. I think the middle part / closer to the end, we really could have used more. The first bit of the book, mwah, I loved it. It was gorgeous. It was setting up everything so beautifully. And then the last half of the book, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down. Whoa. I think this book should have been longer or split into more than just 2 books. And I really hope that it feels like a full completed story once I've read the second book, which I can now because it's out. So I should do that soon. I'm curious to revisit my thoughts on the series as a whole once I finish the second book, because as much as I do think there are some plot holes in the sense of things just happen too conveniently or too fast, I am really interested in the story, and I'm interested in actually figuring out what fits into the plot holes. The next book is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I have heard mixed things across the board about this book, and I have heard that the main character isn't super likable. I think that was about this book. I'm nervous because I don't do well with books where I really don't vibe with the main character. I will be listening to this book on audiobook. I was so tempted to buy this book though, just because I love the cover. It's so simple and stunning. The yellow just makes me feel giddy and happy. And I find that a little bit funny because I think the content of the book is going to make me feel really uneasy. So the juxtaposition of those two things is just, I don't know. It tickles a special part of my brain. I think that's funny. I've been moving books around for weeks now. And I need to don't mind me moving my fan. I'm reorganizing my entire living room right now after pressing record, because this is the time to do it. I'm quickly running out of room on my bookshelf, so I'm in the process of reorganizing. Do I know where anything is going to go? Absolutely not. Do I have goals and dreams? Yes. Are they obtainable right now? No. Bookshelf-wise, I mean. Oh, I was going to update you on my crochet. So I brought all of my balls of yarn. I wanted to give an update on my crochet really quick because one of the last things that I filmed, I was crocheting this, and I did make quite a bit of progress, but I realized after this progress that there is, I don't know if you can see it on camera. Yeah, you totally can. There's this weird line going down and I don't like it. I decided I'm just gonna unravel it because I do not like the stocking. I started making this one for my husband and I've made it this far, so I figured I would update on the crochet. Hello, Editing Alley here. In this clip, I was explaining the plot of Yellowface, but I was very discombobulated, so this voiceover is here to explain what I was attempting to say in this clip. In Yellowface, June, an author, is our main character, and when her friend Athena, who's also an author, dies in a freak accident, June steals Athena's manuscript and publishes it as her own. It's really important to note that June is a white woman and Athena was an Asian woman, and this stolen manuscript is a story Athena wrote about Chinese history. The story follows June's journey navigating publishing said stolen manuscript and the obvious and some not so obvious issues that arise from it. Okie dokie, now we can talk about my initial thoughts. I did hear correctly. The main character is very easy to not like. I'm uncomfortable reading the book, but I would hope that that is the intention with this book, is to have it be uncomfortable, have the readers notice that it's ingrained racism in our main character. You're not meant to like the main character. I'm definitely not always looking forward to listening to the book because of that. I'm also really curious to see how this book continues because I just cannot see our main character getting away with it. Going into Yellowface, I was very afraid because I had heard so much about the main character being very unlikable. I should say I was listening to the audiobook of this book. I didn't read it in a physical form. I feel like that did help me get through the book, but I had been right. I did hear that the main character in this book is very unlikable, and at times it made me want to rip my hair out, but that's kind of the point. I think if you didn't despise the main character, then you have some deeply ingrained and outdated opinions that need to be sorted ASAP. So it's okay, you're meant not to like the main character, but it was just one of those things where you're like cringing so hard sometimes. I think I would have given this book 5 stars, but it was just so hard for me to come back to the book at some points because of how much I did not like the main character. I was just getting so frustrated, and that's entirely why I struggle to place this book on a star rating scale, because it's not that R.F. Kuang didn't achieve brilliance with this. She did exactly what I think she was trying to do, in pointing out the flaws in many systems and just ingrained racism in society and some people within our society. Am I making sense? It was a 5-star in a lot of aspects, but my final rating would be a 4 just because of how much the main character sucks in every way that she was meant to. Happy Place by Emily Henry. I had a good time reading it, but for some reason with Emily Henry's writing, I forget it like the wind. It blows through one ear and out the other. This is my 3rd Emily Henry book, and I think every single one of them I've read in one sitting. Because I read Book Lovers, and I read You and Me on Vacation, or the other vacation one? I read a vacation one. I would need a full hard look at the synopsis to remind myself what happened in them, and it's very similar with Happy Place. Happy Place is about a group of 6 friends who every summer goes on vacation to one of the friends' father's vacation house, and they just spend like a week there every summer. They've been friends for like over a decade. And the first couple of years, our main characters, Harriet and Wynne, 2 of the friends, they fall in love and they start dating. And then 8 years down the line, present day, they've broken up, but they haven't told any of the rest of the friend group yet. And their plan is to tell the friend group on the summer vacation, but surprise, surprise, it turns out this is going to be the last summer vacation in this beloved vacation house that they've always gone to, because one of the friends' father who owns the house sold the house. So they're like, oh my God, we can't tell everyone that we've broken up and then ruin this entire vacation. That would be awful. So we'll just pretend like we're still together and then break the news later. It's a really good idea. Nothing could go wrong. Basically, the events unfold from there. And so we kind of just are figuring out how they got to where they are now. Like a whistle in the wind, not a thing in my head. I did not remember what I read. I remembered it was a romance, which is literally the bare minimum I could have remembered about this book. I do remember that I liked some of the sentiments in the book, but also there was such a severe lack of communication between the characters. I totally get in a lot of books when there needs to be some level of miscommunication in the book for the plot to develop and for some intensity to be risen. But when it's like every other thing, or some things the characters communicate really well and other things are just like totally lost on them, I just get confused. And again, it feels like convenient. It feels convenient for them to not communicate about certain things just so that there's something to talk about in the book. And I remember that being a bit of the feeling that I had with this book. All of the characters in this book are meant to be like best friends, but I felt like they were so passive with each other, it almost felt like they were strangers. It almost felt like they were just acquaintances, that they weren't actually that close with each other. Again, I barely remember this book. Something about Emily Henry's writing, it's not bad at all. I like her writing. I read it really fast, but I think because I read it so fast, it leaves my brain almost as fast. So I gave this book a 4 stars when I finished it, but now because it has not stuck with me at all. I am gotta knock it down to a 3. I just think whatever part of my brain processes Emily Henry's writing style has short-term memory loss, because it worries me a little bit how much I don't remember this book. I remember the feeling it gave me. I was annoyed at times, but at the end of the day, I had a good time, but was happy to move on to reading something else. You know, like I wasn't dwelling on the story. I wasn't stuck in it, but I didn't hate it. All right. So, I mean, if you like Emily Henry's writing, you'd probably enjoy this book. It's not her best that I've read. I think Book Lovers was probably my favorite. I remember the most of that one. It was about publishing. Yeah, I fully had to sit down and research this book to give me something to talk about in this video because I forgot what the plot was. Actually, that's good, because that means if I don't remember these stories, Emily Henry's writing is super rereadable for me, because if I don't remember them, I'm like, oh, brand new story. Maybe it's a blessing and a curse. Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Can we just take a moment for the cover of this book? This portrait, this lovely pink on the outside, this cover makes me excited to read this book. But in reality, I am scared of this book because it's already asking for my tears. The blurb at the top of the Goodreads description of this book, let me just read it. An emotionally layered and engrossing story of a family that asks, can love make a broken person whole? And I am just so afraid that this book will make me feel like the answer to that is no. If I know anything about myself, it's that I'm emotional and I am easily persuaded to cry. So stick around if you'd like to see me sob into a beautiful book. The first sentence. For the first 6 days of William Walter's life, he was not an only child. In Hello Beautiful, we follow the 4 Padavano sisters from their younger life in Chicago in the 1980s well into their adulthood. From their points of view and the point of view of William Walters, the husband of the eldest sister Julia, we see how 2 different family dynamics can combine and clash and overall explore humans' ingrained need for connection. This was Oprah's 100th book club pick, and she said it very well. This book explores the beauty and the cost of love. Anne Napolitano has said the book was inspired by Little Women, which can be clearly seen from the dynamics the characters of the 2 stories share. Right, so I wanted to give a little update about Hello Beautiful. I am on page 69. Can I just say that the first 70 pages, I feel like I've read a whole life story already. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. This is a very, very good book. I just finished, I don't know, maybe like the 5th or 6th chapter. I was having such a good time at the end of this chapter. And then the last paragraph rips my heart out of my chest. I was so upset. I was having a great time, and then literally an emotional slingshot hurled a rock at me and embedded it into the depths of my soul. I'm being really dramatic right now. I'm literally 70 pages into this book. I cannot reiterate how much more of this book that I have to go. It seriously pulled me in 18 different directions in 70 pages. And I think that is phenomenally brilliant. Right now I'm getting strong 5-star reads from this. Anyways, I'm rambling so much, but this book is good. Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Listen, y'all, I'm getting comfy for this because I loved this book. I love this book. If you have read Hello Beautiful, please can we talk about it in the comments, because it's hard for me to say much about the story without giving things away. I think this is a book that I don't want to talk too much about any specific events, because part of the reading experience for this is experiencing the journey with the characters. So even things that happen like 40 pages in, you don't want to know about them before you've read it, if you know what I mean. This book did take me the longest to read, but that's simply because I was enjoying it so much. I sticky noted the poop out of this thing. It's just so beautifully written. It's so beautifully written. It could not have been named better, because for the book and all it holds are beautiful. It also took me a while to read this book because it is quite heavy in a lot of parts, and it touches on grief in many of its different forms. And I think that is part of what makes this book so beautiful. Grief is a huge part of the journey for the characters in this book, but it takes so many forms that it's just like there's no way you can read this book and not connect to something in it. And the author doesn't approach grief in a negative way. It's very, to me at least, I found it to be more optimistic approach to grief, rather than sometimes you'll read about sad points in books and you're just distraught and you always look at the book and remember how distraught you were. But this book doesn't make me feel that way. This book was just like a necessary part of my life. It needed to come into my life, especially when it did, and I'm so happy that I read it. It's so good and it's so beautiful. The author did such a good job. All of the characters were so alive to me. They felt like real people. I felt like I was genuinely looking through their eyes at the world they were experiencing. This book was 110% my favorite book out of all the books that I read for this video. And it was honestly the most unexpected. I had never heard of this book before doing research for this video, and I still not heard anyone talk about it. Again, if you've read it, please can we talk about it, because it's so good. It's so good. I would recommend this to anybody, and definitely if you're not in a great place, maybe put it on like a TBR shelf for another time. But the book also touches on the idea that marriage isn't just contractual. Marriage is for the couple, and in its whole form is just about a relationship that deserves to be celebrated. And I just completely resonate with that. Marriage is just really, at the end of the day, an idea that can also come with a legal binding document, but doesn't need to be honest. You do you. It's your relationship. This book basically touches on the broader aspects of marriage a little bit and how it's more than just a contract. This book was 100% worth the hype. I would recommend this to everyone, and literally no matter who you are, you can connect to something in this book. Please read it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in another one very soon. Bye, friends. Bye. And R.F. Kwong, her name is Rebecca. So there are indeed 3 authors named Rebecca out of the 6 in this video. So that was a complete accident. 2023 was the year of Rebecca. Go Rebecca. Go Rebecca. I don't think I need to be filming anymore. I just like holding this microphone.